I don't know, no bikers really like this time of the year because it really is quite depressing. We all going down with colds and flu, that sort of thing. Yeah, just, I don't know. And everything's kind of like, I don't know, depressing at the minute, isn't it? You know, the world, the state of the place, what's going on. I've stopped listening to the news. It, you know, just, wow. Where would you be with it? It just drive you crazy, wouldn't it? So what we need to think about is what's ahead. And for me, and for many bikers, it's the 2024 season, and it's all about getting out on the bikes and planning a trip. And as you've seen previous videos, you know that I am planning a trip. But I thought today I'd just mention, excuse me, a little bit, and please excuse me, it appears to be a bit of a cold this morning. I just thought I'd mention a little bit about bike and suitability. Because, and I've watched a few other videos on this about people talking about the bikes and the suitability. And I think, firstly, you need to decide if you're going on a tour, long distance tour, and I'm going to talk about Europe, of course. But it could be somewhere outside of the UK. It could be something like touring around the NC500 in Scotland, wherever. But it's about suitability for the bike, of the bike, what sort of bike you want to take. And watching loads of videos of people going down to France, Spain, Portugal, particularly in Spain, like the Picos Mountains and everything, it does appear that a lot of the bikes are the sort of the standard, what we might call adventure tourers, the KTMs, that sort of thing, GSs. And I do notice also that a lot of the bikes seem to be going there for not necessarily the scenery, but for the roads. So, you know, empty roads, sweeping bends, fast corners, that sort of thing. And I don't really get that. I was going to say I get it, but I don't get it. I think my speed day is definitely over. So I don't really get the speed thing. I just want to enjoy the countryside. And as you all know, I don't go with anybody. I always go on my own. So I'm very much the master of my own trip. I decide where I go, when I stop, when I start, what I do. And I find that to be the best way. So yeah, suitability of bikes. So as I've seen on some other videos, and there's one or two that I totally agree with. The suitability of the bike is really, if you're comfortable with the bike. If you are happy with your bike, then you can go touring on it. There's not a problem. I mean, I took a huge Indian Chieftain, 1800cc, right through the Alps last year, right through the Pyrenees, down to first gear, second gear, slow speeds, plenty of revs, trying to keep the bike upright, on rough roads, in heavy rain, in hot temperatures, and the bike was absolutely fantastic, because I can ride it. If you're thinking of doing a trip and buying a new bike, or you've just bought a new bike and you're thinking of doing a trip straight away, I would say a little bit of caution here. Learn your bike, learn slow maneuvering. You know, if you can't maneuver that bike slowly without duck walking, putting your feet on the ground, that's a skill you need to learn. You also need to learn, you know, where the center of balance is on the bike, because it's so easy to topple off a bike at low speeds, or if you come to rest on a corner. And that's another thing also, is road positioning. You need to really consider road positioning. particularly in mountainous areas where you may be, or you will be, if you're abroad on the what we might consider to be the wrong side of the road, the right-hand side of the road. So it's completely different to how you normally are on the UK. So you kind of get used to your road positioning in the UK is where, where you put your foot down if you stop on a hill or on a bend or whatever, or you need to negotiate out the way of somebody, then you're kind of used to doing it on the left-hand side, but bearing in mind it will be on the other side. So your avoiding turns will be probably to the right as opposed to the left. It may sound to you like that doesn't make a lot of difference, but I can assure you it can make a lot of difference. So that's something that you need to consider. So suitability of the bike. So yeah, so if you're comfortable with the bike, then I would suggest that that bike is suitable for any kind of trip. Do you need to supply or put on the bike anything different? You're going to need a sat nav of some kind, unless you want to be old school and do routes and maps and everything like that, which you can do. And of course, you can have a map in a little magnetic bag on the front of your tank, so you can see it. But it doesn't mean, of course, you've got to keep constantly looking down. And those of us that are getting a bit older, probably our eyesight is probably a little bit more fixed on focal lengths these days than judging, jumping between one length and another. So if you ride glasses to ride to see the distance, then looking down on a tank bag or a map on your tank is pretty near on impossible. So a sat nav, or of course, and a lot of people are doing this now, a telephone, a mobile phone. There are lots of mapping apps on mobile phones, and that can be used quite easily. Yeah, screens are a little on the small side, and they do tend to, on occasion, jump in and out of, signal. If you're using the GPS on them, you kind of lose it a little bit, or just want to get and do something and somebody will phone you or a text message comes in. So I've gone with this different bike of mine now. So I'm traveling now with a Triumph Thunderbird LT. So it's a 1700cc bike you see in the background. I've actually opted to put a TomTom ride on that bike to give me the navigation that I need. The Indian, excuse me, please excuse me this morning, my voice is really croaky. The Indian, of course, came with everything, with ride command, Indian mapping, the works, and it was very successful. And I also had loads of other gadgetry on that bike, telling me tyre pressures and, you name it, it was on there. I don't have that on this current bike. I've literally got the fuel, telling me how much fuel I've got left, which is really important, actually. That's very, very handy. And, I've got distance and stuff like that. And that's about it, really. So this bike is a little bit more basic, a bit more of a naked bike. I don't have the big fairing on the front, and I'm thinking that might be a slight advantage, because if there was a disadvantage at all to riding a big cruiser through the mountains, is the inability to actually see your front tyre with any kind of with ease, because you've got the big batwing fairing on the front, and I did find that on occasion a little bit difficult. Although you do have the benefit of having that batwing, huge fairing as a buffer between you and the elements, and that is very, very handy. So yeah, so really what we're saying here is if you're comfortable with the bike, then the bike is a suitable bike for you to go touring with. And the only thing you need to check before you go away is the bike is in good working order. Make sure that your tyres are in good nick, because you're going to put a couple of 1,000 miles on them, probably. Make sure you've had an oil change. Make sure your belt's in good condition, or if it's a chain drive, the chain's in good condition. Probably, I would suggest give it a service, but I would also suggest if you give it a service, a bit like servicing a car, have it serviced a few weeks before you go, so you can polish off any bits that may have been, dare I say, not correctly done, because that does happen, and it's happened to me. So to have it serviced and then go the day after is probably not a great idea. Have it serviced a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, or about a month before, It's a bit like going walking, isn't it? Don't walk in new shoes. You know, take a few days to walk them in, wear them in, and do the same with your bike. I think it's a great idea. And then obviously we'll talk about what you need to take on the trip. And again, I've looked at loads of videos about what people take on the trip. And again, I've done loads of trips and I've taken far too much gear. And I've seen videos of people saying, oh, you know, I packed 5 t-shirts, five pants, 5 pairs of socks. I found actually that two pairs of everything was enough. Now, yeah, I'm going to places where, and the time I'm traveling where the weather is hopefully okay and it's dry. But hey, I'm solo traveling. I'm on my own. So does it matter if I wear a t-shirt 3 or 4 days? I wouldn't normally. That's how it would go in the wash. But if I can't get it dried, then I have 2 options really: change it or pop into a laundrette. I mean, we are going to foreign countries, foreign to us. Yeah, we're going to Europe, but they have exactly the same facilities that we have over here. They have laundrettes. You know, they have tumble dryers very often by supermarkets or in some village or whatever. Don't be afraid of them. They're all coin operated. You know, a lot of people go abroad and take so much stuff that they think, I'll have to take that because they won't have it over there. You know, I'll not get it. I'll need to take it. No, you won't. They survive just as well as we do. Sometimes I would like things probably better. So you don't need to take loads of things that you feel you can only get in the UK because you can get it over there. And again, with clothing, if you take 2 pairs of everything and you find it's not enough, go and buy some more. The likelihood is if you go on a trip, you'll probably buy a load of stuff before you go to take new. So don't bother. Buy it when you get out there. It's just a cheap, and particularly places like France and Spain. They've got some amazing stores. They've got places like Decathlon. We've got Decathlon in the UK now, but, you know, they've got Decathlon. They've got fantastic big supermarkets, hypermarkets. You can buy everything. So don't clutter your bags with stuff. Take a handful of tools, just the basics. You know, if you've got any major repairs, you're going to have it repaired for you. I'm not a mechanic. I don't fiddle about. If something comes loose, then I can obviously deal with that. And what better things to take than the roller tape, some cable ties, and a little bit of wire or something to string it back up. If you've got breakdown cover, and I strongly recommend you have, then, you know, you're going to be fine on that. So again, don't worry about it. Yeah, find out where the main dealers are on your route. You know, maybe make a note of them. And I've mentioned this before. A lot of areas now are kind of like the ULEZ zones, where they are the clean air zones, particularly cities, and you will have to have either a little stamp sticker on your bike to say you've paid, or you'll have to pay when you go in or when you come out. Yeah, and I know everybody says to me, oh, I'm not going into a city. I have no intention of going to a city. I'm sitting to the country and I won't be going into a city. No, you might not. But if you do have a mechanical issue and you have to go to a main dealer, the likelihood is that will be in a city. So you will need to go into a ULEZ zone, possibly. So check it online, look at the countries you're going to, see what the requirements are for those particular countries, and then you are prepared. So that's something to think about. Just quickly going back to clothing, wet weather gear, yes. So I would suggest, if you're going on a summer trip to the likes of Spain, France, Portugal, those sort of places, take a lightweight riding jacket, not a big heavy one, because you'll get hot and you can't cool down on those. So take a lightweight one, but a lightweight one may not give you the waterproofness that you need. So an oversuit would be an advantage to you. And I know some people go for the all-in-ones. I'm too old to get in an all-in-one. I cannot fit in a baby grow. So I take 2-part top and a bottom. And then you have a choice whether you wear both or not. And of course, they pack up small, so those are things that can go into your bag. Now, one of the things, of course, to bear in mind of when we're packing our bike is that unlike cars, vans, camper vans, they are limited for security. And unless you have the luxury of hard panniers that are lockable, then a lot of you out there will just have soft panniers, leather panniers, that aren't lockable. Or maybe you can convert them to be lockable, but whichever, they're not as secure as hard panniers. So there lies the problem that if you're touring and only staying overnight in places, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have all your gear on the bike with you. And that means that every time you want to leave your bike, you're either going to have to take all your gear with you, or you're going to have to leave it on the bike. And if you leave it on the bike, then some opportune thief may look at you and see the opportunity and take your gear. So my advice to you would be, if you're using soft panniers and you don't want to take them with you, you know, when you go to the supermarket, I mean, you can always chuck them in the supermarket trolley if you wish. That's something you could do. But if you're not going to do that, then my advice to you is that if you carry a bag, sorry, the camera's shaking. If you carry a bag with your valuables in, so that would be your camera gear, anything really of value, your passports, whatever that you deem to be valuable, that you carry that as a separate bike on your bag, and that bag goes wherever you go. The panniers on both sides of your bike can obviously then take your clothing, which is replaceable. I'm talking t-shirts, pants, socks, knickers, that sort of thing. And if you were doing a camping trip, then on the other side, you camping bits and pieces. I don't go camping, so you need to look at other videos to get comments on camping gear. But basically what I'm saying is any gear that you want to make sure you don't lose, so your camera gear, your drones, all of that, put that in a bag that you can take with you wherever you go. So that includes you stopping by a beach and thinking, wow, the ocean's just there. I'll just pop down and have a swim. Take that bag with you. Don't leave anything on your bike. Obviously, bike security, again, is important, and you need to lock your bike at all times. Because unfortunately, one thing that Europe does have, it has bike thieves, just like we do over here. So that's something else you need to make sure you've got bike security. And if you're trying to keep the weight down on your bike, then obviously you don't want to be carrying a big heavy chain. So disc locks. There is a newish lock on the market. Well, there's 2 locks actually. There's I think it's called Hick lock, and there's a light lock. And these are locks that are kind of like a U-shaped lock that are made extremely difficult to cut open with a angle grinder, which seems to be the method of choice from these little sods nicking bikes. And these are designed to really make life difficult for these little buggers by really wearing these angle grinder blades down very quickly, and they're having to keep changing blades. So after 2 or 3, they probably give up. So that's a very useful lock to take. Just a little word of warning on that: if you are a biker that has spoked wheels, like I do on the Triumph Thunderbird, I couldn't get the light lock to fit. It wouldn't fit through the brake plate, the disc plate, wouldn't fit through it, the holes. So I couldn't put it through there. I couldn't put it over the tyre, so it was round the rim and round the tyre. It wouldn't fit around that. And I had a hell of a job to get it through the spokes. And I did get it through the spokes, but I didn't really think that that was a very secure method. Any more secure, really, than putting a disc lock on. So if you're really concerned about security, put 2 disc locks on. One is probably enough to deter them away from your bike. If the bike's alongside you haven't got them, they'll go for theirs, hopefully, rather than yours. And obviously there are certain types of bikes they're going to go for, and they're going to go for bikes that are easier to lift, and they're going to go for bikes that are resellable, that are the current go-to bikes. They may not lift a big heavy Harley Davidson or a heavy Indian or a big heavy Triumph into the back of a van so easily. So they may not go for your cruiser, but that's not guaranteed. Sticking with security, jackets and helmets. If you've got an open face helmet, that is difficult to secure on the bike, although there are some locks, and I do have one. I'll try and put a picture of it online. And I find it very successful. Jackets is something else. It's so easy to put your jacket on the back of the bike because it's cumbersome. And how do you secure that? Well, the only way to secure that is to buy yourself on Amazon, and I will put a link on here as well for that, is a small wire strop. It's about 2 meters in length, and you simply pass it through the sleeve of your jacket, out through the inside of your jacket, loop it around onto your bike, onto your city bar or whatever, and stick a padlock on it. That means that unless they're coming prepared with cutting tools, they're not going to steal your jacket. So again, the opportune thief who sees a jacket and thinks there's 100 quid's worth, 200 quid's worth, 300 quid's worth, £1,000 worth of jacket, they do exist, yes, is not going to likely just walk up and have that away. It's a deterrent. Again, it will stop them from just walking off quick. So, yeah, I think for the minute we'll round this up. Things, I might just add just quickly, things to carry on the bike as an essential for keeping you going. Water. Definitely carry water. If you've got a water carrier, great. If you haven't, it's not an issue. Stick some water in your panniers, but keep hydrated. It's a really, really important thing. And while we're talking about keeping hydrated, one other important thing that a lot of bikers don't seem to take too much notice of, and I've seen the problems with it, and they can become extreme problems, is sun tan lotion, particularly if you're open-faced. But even if you're riding with a full face and you've got the visor up all the time, the sun and the wind can be very damaging. And I've seen people who have ended up with skin cancer on their faces as a result of not having full protection. So a factor 50 on your face, particularly around your nose, is really, really important. And it's about looking after yourself, excuse me again, on the bike. It's something that not everybody thinks about until the end of the day, because you may actually feel that it's quite a dull day and that it's not important. But if you're riding a bike with this, as I say, with the wind on your face, the elements on your face, then a factor 50 is the very least you should be putting on your face to protect it. You do not want to be coming back and then after a few months suddenly discovering you've got skin cancer. That is a definite no-no. So yeah, so suntan lotion and water. The two important things. Don't forget to eat. I mean, obviously you're going to eat, but keep yourself replenished. There's plenty of places on the road to get something. Stop in at most petrol stations now, as in the UK, you can grab a sandwich. More in France and Spain, I've noticed particularly, you can stop and get a hot coffee and a croissant very, very cheaply. And so, yeah, keep yourself going on that. And then the next video, I will go more into detail about this year's route and the accommodation, but I'll end it here. As I say, I will interject some little bits of photos of things that I think that might be useful. So yeah, so get yourselves now before this Arctic blast arrives. We're now January the 13th, I think it is today. So I won't be doing anything today. Not the 13th. Now's the time to start watching those videos, gleaning the information from other people that have done it, taking on board the good stuff, throwing aside the bad stuff, and get yourself ready for your big epic adventure. And let's hope that world events don't interfere with anything that any of us want to do this year, and we can have a good year, a safe year riding, and enjoy the beauty that is motorcycling and the freedom that it gives us. Yeah. Enjoy. See you on the next one. Thanks for watching.